Friends and enemies, welcome back. It is an exciting week for White Widow Sports. The contracts have been signed. He can deny it all he wants, but the chess boxing is happening. Not only did we hit 50 subscribers prior to WrestleMania weekend, we're actually sitting at 57. Small boom on the channel. We have one video really that we like to talk about. If you've already checked it out, I'm sure if you're watching this, you are watching our other videos. But our most impressive and least impressive Super Bowl champion videos are just skyrocketing in views. A lot of comments, a lot of support for that. We thank you. If you haven't seen it yet, everybody else on the planet's basically watched already, so you might as well click on it now too. Guys, what do you think about all the newfound success we've been having, and how far can this thing go?
I think it's great. Super happy to see all the subs come in. I love looking at the analytics and watching them go up. I found myself checking my phone. Do I have a new sub? Do I have a new sub? So it was super fun. Thank you guys for subbing. Again, invite your friends, your family, everybody the people you hate. I don't really care. Just bring them onto the channel. So we love all comments, good, bad, ugly, whatever. So
Yeah, Chris loves it when people disagree with him. So if you don't like his picks, tell him and he'll talk to you about it. Chris, as the mastermind behind those videos, like what's kind of been going through your mind this week following those videos and their success?
It's just kind of crazy. I just kind of had an opinion. I did some research. I recorded my voice and put a few uh, video clips and pictures up, and 2,600 people watched it, and some of you disagreed, and I completely welcome that. Some of you did agree. That's awesome too. And just who would have thought a guy with a microphone, an opinion, some video editing tools just got your attention. Thank you one way or another.
Yeah, I mean we've already established the fact that anybody can have a podcast, but apparently even Chris can make a 2,500 plus view video as well,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's not done yet. So we're on the
yeah.
road to 3K views on that video. We're
Oh,
on the road to 100 subscribers now. We've kind of blown past our 50 subscriber goal. Thank you again for everybody doing that. But kind of enough of the housekeeping topics. Let's get into sports. Final four games happened last night for the women's. UConn incredibly impressive.
mhm.
Chris, I think you were watching those games last night. Who really impressed you the most going into those women's games?
Yeah, well, I was watching that one game specifically. UConn, I mean, if you've been paying any sort of attention for the past, like, I don't know, 25, 30 years, it's going to be, they're in their 13th championship game, looking for the 12th natty. That's right, 11-1 to this point. And it's all under one coach. I know, apparently, if previous videos have taught us anything, hot takes are getting your attention. So here's one. Coach Gino is the best women's coach in college basketball history. Maybe that's not the hottest take in the world, but where I grew up near the Tennessee state line, it's a crime to claim that anyone but Pat Summitt at Tennessee owned that title. And to be fair, up until 1998, that was true. But her 8 titles have been blown away by Gino, and there's no sign of him slowing down that success until he retires. He's currently 71, and I won't pretend to know what his plans are moving forward. And if he doesn't retire, he's going to bring in the recruits. He's going to keep winning games, and he's probably going to add a few more championships.
Yeah, it feels really bad right now to have not picked UConn in the bracket just from how successful they've been. I did have UConn versus South Carolina as my championship game, and so it's cool to see that that has coming to fruition. And as good as South Carolina is and has been, and as well as I think they can perform in that game. It's really nervous to have not picked UConn going into that game because they just look insanely good, like on another level good. So really cool to see that. We are halfway through the men's final four as of this recording. I am the only person on this podcast pulling against Houston right now, but Florida did come back to beat Auburn in the first game. So
Mhm.
I'm excited about that. I can't win the men's bracket challenge, but I can still finish ahead of you two. So I'm carrying that with me these days. So we'll be following that as well. And then obviously looking forward to the two championship games over the next couple of days. Brian, I know this is something that you and I have in common as far as this being our first bracket challenge. just kind of as you've been going through it. I know we're not done yet. We don't have those final standings and all, but just how have you been enjoying the process and seeing the ebbs and flows of it?
I believe I told both of y'all that my only goal was not to come in last place because I don't follow college basketball. You know, I do enjoy this. You know, and really enjoy the fantasy football a little bit more. Uh,
Mhm.
but you know, I have enjoyed this process and going through the brackets. You know, I get excited when my team wins. I, you know, obviously get upset when they lose. Clemson. um, yeah, I hold a grudge for a while.
You
But
let us all down, man.
but it has been a lot of fun and you know, I do find myself keeping track of it more than I thought I would. You know, just not being a fan. Um I do check the app and see when the games are playing and then I usually just follow the games on the app. I don't necessarily watch them, but I do keep up with the scores and so on and so forth. So it's been a lot of fun, but I'm ready for fantasy football to come around.
We're not quite there yet. We still got the draft to come. And of course, the one thing that everybody is waiting on is Aaron Rodgers to sign a contract somewhere. I think we all still think it's going to be Pittsburgh, if anywhere, but it's got to happen sooner or later, right?
Yeah, this guy, no, I think he ought to retire. I've said it, you know, 2 or 3 podcasts now. Every podcast, it's almost like mentioning Cam Scatterbo. Retire, brother. Go play golf. You know, don't go to Pittsburgh. You know, let them pick somebody out of the draft or, you know, I don't know, find take Kirk Cousins. You know, I know that that's a tricky situation, but I'd love to see it happen. So
Yeah, I think we had the team owners meetings this past week, and Mike Tomlin was obviously asked about it, and he said that there's no timeline for when they expect Aaron Rodgers to sign the contract. And just the wording of that situation, the way that he was answering questions, almost makes it sound like the contract is already in place. And maybe Rodgers just has that big of an ego that he's not signing it purely to keep people talking about him because that's how he stays relevant right now when everybody wants to talk about the draft. I have to think Pittsburgh does have a deadline of the draft because they're going to say, look, we need to know if you're our quarterback this year, if we need to make contingency plans and what could happen there. Because as it stands right now, it's Mason Rudolph, and I think that's it. So I mean, they have to know something going into the draft to be able to set those draft plans accordingly. Uh, but obviously frustrating for everybody that's just waiting for that domino to fall.
which I did see on one of my timelines where Aaron Rodgers went and threw with Pickens and Metcalf. So, you know, I tend to agree with you that, you know, it is going to be Aaron Rodgers at Pittsburgh. But again, I don't want to see it because I'm tired of seeing Aaron Rodgers, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's a foregone conclusion, but we're just waiting for it to happen so that we can stop talking about it. But Chris, yeah, I'll pull the Cody Rhodes here and say, what do you want to talk about?
Oh goodness, let's see.
The floor
What
is
do I
yours,
want?
brother.
What do I want to talk about? I got a few things here I could go on. I think I'll go with Trey Young. He is now the assistant GM with Oklahoma basketball. Um, he also pledged $1 million to the program. So we've also seen Andrew Luck is the head general manager with Stanford football, if I'm not mistaken, and that was done back in late November. And I kind of just see this as a bad move. And I have a Trey Young jersey. I'm a Atlanta Hawks fan. I love the guy. I'm not one of those people that says trade him away and all that stuff, but he's 26 years old. He's still employed by the NBA. I just don't think this is a good move. I don't think he knows what he's doing to make business decisions for a college basketball program. If Oklahoma wanted a big name to help make business decisions, maybe they should have gone with someone recently retired like Blake Griffin. I just think this is kind of a nice gesture to a guy that gave you $1 million and you're not really letting him make any big decisions or anything. You're kind of giving him an honorary title, kind of like people that achieved a lot in their field or something. You give them an honorary degree from like Yale or Harvard or something just because it's a nice thing to do. I really think that's all that's going on here, and I don't take this so seriously.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how involved he really is. Obviously, during basketball season, you don't expect him to be able to be very involved in the day in and day out processes of that program. But in the off season, I mean, it seems like he wants to help build it. He wants to help the program any way that he can using the resources at his disposal. And maybe he's kind of getting his feet wet, kind of dipping the toes in the water a little bit for a career after basketball, but still being within the sport, just maybe in a different context. So, kind of cool to see. Be interesting to see where it is. And be honest with you, I mean, I know Andrew Luck because of him being retired and forced out of football for various injuries and stuff like that. It just didn't become worth it to him. And I think that position really suits him well. If he wasn't going to go
Yeah.
into coaching, be an executive, I think he's got the
Mhm.
mind for it. But
Mhm.
Trae Young being really in his prime, being such an active player right now in the NBA, it just seems like a very out of left field move to name him an assistant general manager. Maybe it is an empty title, like what you're saying. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows outside of that organization, but I'm interested to follow it and see where it goes.
Sure. Brian, you were
Mhm.
saying you had a very interesting thing in the world of golf that's very controversial, a little decisive. What do you got for us over there?
So I got a couple of things, really, and it almost revolves around the same thing.
Mhm.
So, people on YouTube that follow golf and golf YouTubers and things of that nature, they you know watch the good and the Bryant Bros and the people of that nature. Right now, Live is putting on something called the Duels. Um, well, the PGA seemed to have gotten mad at that because the PGA has their own creators tournament that they do. So they went to the YouTube creators like the Bryant Bros, Grant Horvath, Good, those folks, and basically told them, "Hey, if you play in this duels for Live, you can no longer participate in any of the PGA events." And from my understanding, um, the creators basically told him to go stick it. You don't pay my bills. I don't care if you ban me. I'm a YouTube golfer, not a PGA golfer. So we don't really care. You need us more than we need you because there are much more fans that are paying attention to, the YouTube golfers versus watching a PGA event on the weekends. So, um, I think PGA kind of had a change of heart and went back to him and said, "Wait a minute, let's talk about this." And I find it to be great because I don't mind the Live. I've said it in the past as far as it being a level of the PGA or on the same level as the PGA. I don't. I know it's very divisive, in the golf community. Some people love Live, some people hate Live. Um, I'm kind of in the middle. I just like good golf. So, but for PGA to come out and blow their chest up at YouTube golfers, super happy with the YouTubers saying, "Nah, get out of here, brother. You're not paying my bills." So, super happy about that. Um,
Well,
you
real
know,
quick, Brian, I want to ask
hold on,
you.
hold on. It almost reminds me of something that Brad showed me of Ric Flair back in the day. Said, "I'm an
Oh,
Apple Watch wearing, a gold ring wearing, a tennis shoe stomping son of a gun." Woo!
it's a little
And
off,
that's
but all
what
right.
this is.
That's
So,
exactly what Ric Flair said.
not exactly,
In
but
the
it,
80s, in the 80s, huh?
I had to bring it to my side. I don't have a
Oh, okay.
Rolex and I don't have diamond rings.
Oh,
So,
okay,
and I
okay, I got
don't
you, I
have
got you.
alligator boots.
I got
So,
you, I got you.
but I had to bring it over to me.
Brian
Um,
spent more money on spilt liquor than you made. No, we can't back that claim up. But I want to ask you, obviously, you've been a PGA watcher pretty much your entire life. You grew up watching golf with your dad, your uncle. You were raised around golf. To say you're a PGA fan would not be misguided at all. But it
Sure.
sounds like you're taking the content creator's side on this stance, you know,
100%.
when they were at odds. How much of that is just because you are now a YouTuber yourself, very successful YouTuber? You're pretty much just having to side with your own kind, because it's safe to say you're a lot closer to being a YouTuber than you are a PGA player.
Well,
That is very true, but that is not why I'm taking the YouTuber side. Um, I just I disagree with PGA's stance on this. You know, to come out and blow your chest up because you are, they're professional golf. I mean that they've been around for 100 years, so they are kind of the authority on golf, but they tried to push around the little guys, and the little guys stood up. And so that's why I would have taken their side, even if I wasn't doing this podcast or not a part of YouTube. I would have taken their side anyway, because I do love what Good puts out. I do love the Bryant Bros channel, uh, Bob Does Sports, Grant Horvat, uh, Micah Morris. I watch all those. I watch more of their videos than I do the PGA. I think I've said it in the past. I only catch like the main events, the big events. Obviously, my favorite is Waste Management, but also in a couple of weeks we have the Masters coming up, so I look forward to that. I there are certain events I really enjoy watching that are PGA events, but I've watched live golf. I've watched, but I find myself more and more watching more of the YouTube golfers, because it's a different style of golf. It's more what you experience on a golf course playing with your buddies versus what you see on TV with the PGA or live for that matter. So yeah, I would have taken their side either way. Um, and talking to live and blowing your chest up a little bit. Um, One of the things that has come out, I believe, Bryson DeChambeau and Garrett Clark of Good was supposed to be in that duels. Well, Bryson DeChambeau has his own YouTube channel, and well, he thought he had his own YouTube channel. We'll put it that way. So come to find out, the way his contract is written, Live Golf owns that YouTube channel. So Bryson DeChambeau basically backed out of that, from what I'm hearing, backed out of the duels Miami. If they can work it out, he may go into some of the other duels. I hope he does. I'm a big Bryson DeChambeau fan. I'm a huge Garrett Clark fan. So, I think they're great together. They just did a video recently of breaking 50, where they broke 50, which is extremely hard to do in golf. So I'd like to see it, but I understand Bryson DeChambeau. He thought this was his channel, and it's not his channel, and there's just a whole big thing there that I'm sure a bunch of lawyers are going to get involved, and it's going to be kind of messy and ugly. And I wouldn't want to partake in any side of that. So, but that's kind of the big things that are coming out of golf right now, and especially the golf world. So.
Yep.
All right, I've talked a lot.
Speaking of Messi and something that we don't want to take part in, the Braves are 1-7, and I just checked the score not too long ago. They're currently playing the Marlins, and they were down 3 runs to 9. I don't know if it's worse than that now. I'm not checking again, just out of my own personal depression. I'm not taking part in baseball season. If y'all want to talk about baseball, that's fine. I hate the Braves.
Yeah, I still love the Braves. I will always love the Braves. Obviously, they're an Atlanta team, and I love the Falcons and stuff like that. Um, so they are off to a 1-7 start, which is not good. And they are currently losing, so it looks like they're going to go 1-8 unless they can rally in the last two innings. But it's currently 4-0 in the top of the eighth, so they're playing the Marlins.
I mean, we saw this happen. Pitching is the weak point for the Braves. It has been for a long time. we get a good pitcher and he ends up going elsewhere, signing for more money than we can. Obviously, your big acquisition was Profar. He gets hit with the 80-day suspension, so he's not going to be playing a lot of baseball this year. And who knows what he's going to look like when he comes back once you get him off of his performance enhancers and all. We've seen players slump across multiple sports. It just seems like the Braves don't have a team worth following right now. And even if the Braves flip their record and say they were 7-1 instead of 1-7, I still don't know how much I would be watching just because this is my own personal vendetta. I've gotten to a point where it's not even the Braves. I just don't like Major League Baseball. The lack of a salary cap, and I'm sorry to all baseball fans out there, you can disagree with me, but the lack of a salary cap in baseball to me ruins the sport because you've got some owners that don't care about a luxury tax. They're willing to spend 2 and 3 times as much as other owners are. I'm talking about the Dodgers. I'm talking about the Yankees. They will buy whatever name is available that they can because there's no real consequences to them. They don't care about the money. They're willing to buy the championships that they think that they have coming to their city. And if it works, great. I mean, that they set out what they did to do, but there's not that same thing in basketball. There's not that same thing in pro football. You cannot buy your way to championships because every team has the same amount of money that they can spend. They're all allotted the same draft picks and it's up to you to build the most competitive team and may the best team win, not may the biggest payroll win. Chris,
Yep.
what are your thoughts on this? How do you feel about Major League Baseball and the terrible start for the Braves so far?
When you go back and look at some of the preseason articles, they a lot of them have the Braves as the biggest threat to LA to knock them off. And as a kind of a pretty casual baseball fan, I have to believe those people because they know a lot more than me. And so to see it turn out this way, I'm just like I'm beyond disappointed that you give me that kind of hope and that kind of excitement, and it turns out like this. I think I was hearing it on the news that no team that started out like this has ever won the championship, and
No,
no
no
team that
0 and
started
7. Yeah, no 0 and 7 team has ever even made the playoffs.
and never even made the playoffs. Yeah, that was the other thing. And so you're killing casual baseball fans, Braves. Like, I'm gonna support the Braves. I'm gonna do all that. I only like baseball so much, but like this isn't helping me.
Well, the only good thing that I can tell you is I did live through the worst to first era with Ron Gant and David
Yeah.
Justice and some of the players that I grew up watching and love. Um, so can there be a turnaround for the Braves? Absolutely. I'm not going to give up hope, but I'm kind of like Chris. I don't want to really tune in to watch them lose another one. So
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, a 1 and 7 or 1 and 8 start in baseball is not nearly as detrimental as it is in football. Obviously, those games are a lot more padded to each individual game. I mean, you play multiple games in a week in baseball. This is in no means indicative of what the rest of the season is going to be, but it's certainly a bad start for what it could be. They say you can't win your division in April, but it sure seems like the Braves are trying their best to lose it so far. And it puts a bummer on what the next sporting season is. Basketball is winding down. We talked about the Final Four, where the NBA postseason is going to be here before long, and how that's going to shake out. Obviously, we've got the draft and all that stuff. Football, as we've talked about it multiple times, it's a year-round thing. My Birmingham Stallions bounced back from their Week 1 loss. They won their Week 2 game this weekend, so excited for that. But baseball is that next big core four sport that's kicking off. And for us Braves fans, it really couldn't be much worse than what it is. And it's really killed any enthusiasm I've had to follow baseball, if for no other reason than for this podcast. I'd love to be talking about the undefeated Braves and how many home runs we've been hitting. And there's just not really much to be excited about right now.
Maybe try a little hockey playoffs coming up also in the
Yeah.
early summer here.
A little Frozen Four or something going on?
Well, professional, but yes, yeah, if we want to go there, the Frozen Four is set now. We got Boston, Western Michigan, Penn State, and Denver. Boston's a five-time champ, most recent being 2009. Western Michigan, this is the first time in the Frozen Four. Actually, the first time they've ever even won a conference championship, so that's pretty cool. This is the first Frozen Four for Penn State also. Denver is a 10-time champion and also the defending champion seeking a repeat. I have no deep connection to any of these teams. I've only even been to two of those cities. I lived in Massachusetts for a summer, if you want to count that. I did live near Denver for 3.5 years. I've had a loose working relationship with Denver University in the past and was even interviewed for a job there around 2018. I know it's uncool to cheer for the team with more history than the others, but that's what I'm gonna do. So go Pioneers. Probably doesn't hurt that my favorite professional hockey team somewhere back there is also in Denver since my local Georgia team left me in 2011. I'm also guessing this might be the first time that my partners here learned that Denver is the Pioneers. Boston is also the Terriers, by the way, in case you guys are just
Oh yeah.
learning those two things.
The one thing that I really learned was a few days ago when you mentioned the Frozen Four
Hmm.
as like a play on words, ice hockey, Final
Yes.
Four. I was like, man,
Mhm.
that is a brilliant name. And that was
Yeah,
my
for
biggest
sure.
takeaway. I could not care less about the four teams there. I probably won't watch it. I might, who knows.
Yeah,
But I mean, I enjoyed the Four Nations face off. And if this is anything close to that as far as entertainment value goes, I could see myself getting a little more invested than I have been in the past. But Frozen Four is just an awesome name. So props to them for
sure,
whoever coined that phrase. I like that a lot.
sure, sure. I haven't actually watched probably since 2008. I had some friends watching, so I'm looking forward to maybe catching a game here, maybe the championship, of course. Could be pretty fun. I've become quite a big hockey fan in maybe the past 4 or 5 years, so this is only helping. So
Yeah, Savannah's kind of a cool town to be in for sports. You got your Savannah Banana shirt on now. I've seen you with the Ghost Pirate stuff on. You got the pennant behind you for that. So
sure,
Savannah's a pretty cool town to get involved in some sports that you might
small
not
town.
be more invested in before. So
Yeah,
not
on a
not too
smaller
bad.
scale, of course.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes that's how you do it because
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie and say that I'm a hockey fan, but I like watching championship games in any sport. If somebody tells me this is the cornhole championship, like ACL championship, I was like, you know what, I'll watch cornhole because obviously we all been at bars, we've been at parties,
yeah.
tailgates and stuff. We've played around a cornhole or two. The church barbecue might have some cornhole boards set
Mhm.
out, but like to watch these guys, and these are the two best or the four best cornhole players in the world. You're like, you know what? I'll tune into that just because I want to see the difference in skill. Just to comprehend it. It's entertaining in the fact that you feel like you're watching greatness.
Give it a chance. Give home ec another chance. Shout
Yeah,
out to Superbad, incredible masterpiece. Anyway,
great movie. At least the first
yeah,
half of it.
first half, yeah, sure.
All right, what else do we have, guys? Keep the ball rolling.
I
Shoot,
don't
I
know.
don't have much, man.
Yeah, I'm out of
Um,
topics.
Look forward. Love the feedback. I'd love to call out the exact comment, but a guy on that video that had so many views gave me some other ideas, and you know what? I will call out that guy directly if I decide to make another video on his suggestions. So yeah, great to yeah, I guess that's a great byproduct of having one of these videos get a lot of views is a lot of you guys are interacting whether you subscribed or didn't subscribe or whatever. As long as you interacted, like you're giving us some feedback, you're giving us some ideas, you're giving us some inspiration, and that only makes us better. So thank you guys.
I
Yeah,
agree.
and not everybody is watching the podcast compared to a video like that. But if you are watching it, we just want to encourage you at this point. Don't think that you're going to hurt our feelings by telling us something that we can do better. We welcome that constructive, criticism or any criticism at all. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us what you do like. We like video suggestions, different stuff like that. We've got some more videos in the work. You mentioned being a couple weeks away from the Masters. We're a couple weeks away from a lot of stuff. We've got the NFL draft coming up. I expect us to do something for that, in addition to our live stream that we've been promoting lately. But also WrestleMania is coming up
Yeah.
the 19th and the 20th. And so
Mhm.
look for me and Chris to put out a video or two about WrestleMania and our thoughts and predictions, stuff like that. I do want to
Yes.
go ahead and plug another trend of videos that we've talked about doing that we've titled Playing Favorites internally. We're going to get on here and start talking about some of our favorite champions in the world of wrestling. So if you like
Mhm.
the least impressive and most impressive Super Bowl champions, if you're a wrestling fan, whether you used to be a fan and you've gotten out of it, or if you're a more recent fan now that might be looking into some of the history of stuff, just kind of our thoughts on it. Please check that video out when it drops. We're looking forward to that. I think it'll do well as well. But other than that, I mean, I didn't really have anything else, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Love all the support. Keep it coming. We're really excited, obviously, and I think that shows on our faces and the way we talk about it. It's been a really cool week for us having that first video that kind of blew up the way that it did compared to everything else. Seeing the subscriber count go up multiple times a day, and then also the feedback, like we said, that comes with that. If we're talking to 10 people, it doesn't matter. Like we're excited to have that conversation, but to have that conversation with 60 people and to have 5 of those come back and let us know something else that they want to see, that's worth its weight in gold to us because we want to know those things. So if you're still listening at this point, drop a comment, like the videos, subscribe if you haven't already, turn those notifications on because we've got a lot of cool stuff coming. And don't be afraid to shout out anything that you want to see from us because we're all ears for stuff like that.
Absolutely.